You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
And that's exactly what's happened to Patrick Mahomes. For a plethora of reasons, Patrick Mahomes has now found himself being rooted against more than ever before. But how is one of the most likable personalities in the NFL all of a sudden a villain? It seems to make no sense on paper. But when you look deeper into it, you'll completely understand why that is the case, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because it's none of his fault. Mahomes is just a straight up baller. He doesn't say anything controversial. He's not out here getting in trouble. And just the vibe and energy I get from watching his interviews or highlight clips, I don't know. I can't help but like the guy. So what are the problems? Well, let's get into it. There are 3 reasons why I feel Patrick Mahomes is now viewed as a villain. Reason number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs have transitioned from the new kids on the block to a dynasty. When Mahomes and the Chiefs first made the playoffs, they went up against Tom Brady and the mighty New England Patriots. And everyone, and I mean everyone besides New England of course, wanted to see the Chiefs win. Obviously, when that didn't happen, you still had a large portion of fans rooting for them. Then, when they made the first Super Bowl and finally won, I would say that was the peak. Because the bigger you are, the harder they want to see you fall. And also, not everyone is a Chiefs fan. Everyone has their own other teams they want to root for. And now, the Kansas City Chiefs have become this era's New England Patriots in a sense. The Chiefs' immense success since Mahomes took over at starting quarterback has put a giant target on their backs for the past few years. Sustained dominance breeds hatred from opposing fans, and sometimes even superstar athletes. NBA superstar Kevin Durant said on his podcast that he's basically grown tired of watching the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I can't stand the Chiefs. I can't. They're just so good. I'm not saying his opinion isn't valid, but it's pretty funny coming from a guy that had already joined a powerhouse team in his sport and pretty much extended their reign of dominance. Then fans appeared to be fed up with Patrick Mahomes complaining about officiating, considering the fact that not only is he the face of the league, but usually the face of the league gets a certain amount of favoritism. Also add in the fact that new video evidence proved that it was in fact the right call, and you now have filled the hate even more. And not only are dynasties usually rooted against in the moment, but the same teams just making the Super Bowl can get annoying. And what I mean by that is take a look at the early 90s Buffalo Bills, losing 4 straight. History will tell you now that they were the lovable losers, but no. People at the time were so rooting for them not to make it back. And that's for a team that kept losing the Super Bowl. So just imagine the level of hatred towards dynasties. Well, unless you're a fan of the team. It's simply a part of sports. Fans don't want to see the same teams consistently make the biggest game each and every year. But that's part of what makes the Super Bowl so special. It's exclusive. You have to be the best in your conference just to make it in the game. And the fact is, lately, when it's all said and done, whether they win or lose the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team consistently coming out of the AFC. But right now, unless you're a Chiefs fan, you are more than likely not appreciating the dynasty we are witnessing. The Chiefs were booed during the Super Bowl's opening night in Las Vegas. Some jocked it as, well, Las Vegas is the home of their longtime divisional rival, the Raiders. But star Kansas City defensive tackle Chris Jones would beg to differ. He claims fans have turned on the franchise and don't want it to capture its 3rd championship in 5 seasons. Everybody used to love us. We used to be one of the most favorite teams. Now everybody's ready for the Chiefs to lose. It's okay. They can continue hating. You call it hate when you win a lot. The problem is we haven't won as much as people think. We've won only 2 Super Bowls, right? We only won 2 out of 3. Oh my gosh. Chris, dude, read the room. He's talking about 2 Super Bowl wins isn't a whole lot. There are fan bases that go ecstatic when their team finishes at 500, yet you're talking about 2 Super Bowls as not a whole lot. At least it's good to have confirmation that the team's aware of its new villain image. including its biggest star. Patrick Mahomes was asked if winning too much was causing him to become a villain, and he said, "I think I just like winning. If you win a lot and that causes you to be a villain, then I'm okay with it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to enjoy playing the game and try to win as much as possible." Now that they've won 3 Super Bowls, which includes 2 in a row, fans are more sick than ever of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So while on the football field, Mahomes and his team have built a reputation as the NFL's biggest villains as of this new era, Mahomes has found himself in plenty of off-the-field related situations that are all uncomfortable, awkward, and entirely not his fault. An under-discussed piece of that is his racial identity, is how his mixed race background has created an unfair dynamic between him and those communities. Oh yes, that's right, we're going there. Yep, I'm gonna do the race thing, sorry. But as a light-skinned dude myself, I feel it's completely relevant. Let's take a look at some other successful athletes. Let's take a look at Steph Curry. He gets a lot of respect for changing the game and whatnot, but there's always going to be some sort of layer of hate because he's light-skinned. Now, of course, you can make the case for any other race of athletes, but when it comes to light-skinned athletes specifically, I always feel that there is going to be a layer of colorism. What the hell does that mean? Colorism is discrimination based on skin tone and is a form of prejudice or discrimination in which people of certain ethnic groups or people who are perceived as belonging to a darker skinned race are treated differently based on their darker skin tone. And it's not only limited to just light-skinned athletes, it's really light-skinned people in general that have to deal with this. I can speak from personal experience. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there have been certain times growing up where, oh, he's not black enough, you don't talk black, you don't act black. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I get their stereotypes and jokes and all that, but if you expect a certain race of people to act and say and do certain things 100% of the time, you're crazy. Just go on Twitter and look up Patrick Mahomes and I guarantee you will see some sort of colorism tweet. Like, when someone posts his family's picture on there, I always feel like you're bound to see at least a few colorism replies, but I could go into more details about why I feel colorism is a thing in general, but I feel like we would be here all day. And why? Because he may not sound black to you.
Something that I've kind of embraced, and the guys, Kelsey, Tyreek, and those guys throw some shots at me, but don't worry, I throw shots back.
But when it comes to videos about Patrick Mahomes, I feel like it's the elephant in the room that's never addressed. But since I'm light-skinned, I can speak on experience, and I guarantee there are a bunch of people watching this video right now that completely agree and know exactly what I'm talking about, and have more than likely experienced the same thing themselves. It's a shame because historically black quarterbacks have had to deal with a lot of racism over the years. One anonymous defensive coordinator called Patrick Mahomes nothing but a street ball quarterback and said he struggles when he makes it past his first read. Like, seriously, Patrick Mahomes not only has to deal with racism, but colorism, because he had a child with someone who wasn't black. Mahomes' complicated off-the-field image doesn't end there though. Plenty of off-the-field drama and poor reputation around his family haven't done him any favors. Let's establish something right off the bat. Things Patrick's wife and brother do are not his fault in the slightest, but those two family members are extremely commonly disliked people, and context about why is important, since it does inevitably fuel anti-Mahomes feelings on top of that. This is Patrick Mahomes' wife Brittany and his little brother Jackson. Brittany and Jackson Mahomes' behavior makes them an easy target for fans, which eventually translates into some form of hatred for Patrick Mahomes because these are people that are in his inner circle. When you're getting a lot of attention, sometimes you have to move a little differently, and it seems the two people in the Chiefs quarterback's inner circle have done the opposite. Now, I want to clarify, I don't know these people at all. I don't know how they act behind closed doors, so I'm not not going to speak on them being either a good or bad influence on Mahomes, but they do enough in the public eye to where fans immediately take their rage out on them, and then that hatred later transitions to Patrick Mahomes. So what have they done? To begin, Jackson caught the ire of NFL fans after he shot a TikTok video of himself dancing on a logo of the late Sean Taylor's number the day it was being retired by the Washington Commanders. He apologized on Twitter and claimed that the stadium's security personnel had directed them to stand in the area. He cited ignorance for that, but fans weren't gonna let him off the hook for another incident in Baltimore. After the Chiefs lost against the Baltimore Ravens, Mahomes poured a water bottle on heckling fans before walking away. Not only is that so weak, but you also gave them exactly what they wanted. They wanted you to overreact, and that's exactly what you did. While he did that, Brittany's bias towards the Chiefs rubbed fans the wrong way, as she complained the referees are never on the Chiefs' side after Kansas City's 38-20 loss against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, that's her man playing quarterback. Of course she's gonna feel some type of way, but it doesn't compare to what she did next. She was also heavily criticized for opening a bottle of champagne and spraying it on unsuspecting fans in the aftermath of the Chiefs' divisional round win over the Buffalo Bills. There was the drama with the bar after Jackson Mahomes took to Instagram stories to call the service absolutely terrible. Then the bar fired back, "We are sorry you didn't reach out to us before taking to social media," but then again, that is an expectation we would have from a mature and rational person, not someone who pours water on fans and dances on the memorials of tragically lost people for TikTok clout. Oh my gosh. Okay, so they're doing dumb and cringeworthy stuff. I mean, Jackson Mahomes is doing a freaking TikTok dance in the background of his brother's post-Super Bowl interview. Sure, it's annoying, but he's not hurting anybody. At least he wasn't at the time. Shortly after the Chiefs' Super Bowl win, Jackson Mahomes was arrested for aggravated sexual battery. The quarterback's brother was seen forcibly kissing the restaurant owner in a video that was leaked. And then he proceeded to do it 2 more times, where the last time she was pushing him off, and you can see the cameras that someone was outside the office door and was yelling for them to come help because he's big and massive. While Mahomes was charged and rightfully getting dragged by everyone, honestly, it didn't compare to what happened to the actual victim. Not only did she have to go through that horrifying experience, but she was forced to close down her restaurant due to a sharp decline in sales, as well as threats and harassment. And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, the felony charges against Jackson Mahomes were eventually dropped. And if you're thinking, oh, the victim must have taken some type of settlement, no. The prosecutors dropped the charges. So yeah, while Brittany can be insufferable at times, it does not compare to what Jackson Mahomes has done. So all of that from those two fuels the Patrick Mahomes hatred even further, especially Jackson Mahomes, as there's an old saying, you're guilty by association. Well, that's not fair. Well, yeah, exactly. Life isn't fair. You know what also isn't fair? Getting hatred from something that doesn't even have to do with your family. And what I mean by that is the Swifties. Once Kelsey and Swift's relationship went public, you began to see her at the football games, and Kansas City Chiefs' visibility was up more than ever before, further annoying the haters to no end, as there was officially no escaping the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have taken the NFL world by storm, and while I think it's great for football for the most part, naturally there is going to be a level of hatred against it. I'll even admit at times I was annoyed, but eventually I'm like, well, Taylor Swift's the biggest singer in the world right now. It's a no-brainer. If she's at the game, they're gonna show her on camera. So there's already a level of hatred with that on its own. And of course, you can't forget the past incidents with Brittany and Jackson in the suites. In conclusion, Patrick Mahomes had a quick but meteoric rise to become the best player in the National Football League. league. He was easily a likable fan favorite, but over time, his image has slowly turned into that of one of the NFL's biggest villains, and honestly, none of it is his fault. You can't blame a professional athlete for wanting to win in every game he plays in. You can't blame a guy who can't control what two other grown-ass people do with their lives, and you can't blame a guy for being biracial. Regardless of whether you love or hate the Chiefs winning right now, and regardless of the Super Bowl outcome, Patrick Mahomes is going to remain the villain for a while, at least until the Chiefs stop winning. But from the looks of it, that's not going to happen for a while. So honestly, instead of hating, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the era we're in. Because eventually, just like Tom Brady, you're gonna look back at the times you rooted against Patrick Mahomes fondly, and at that moment, you will have realized that Mahomes has officially transitioned from villain to hero.